It's hard to read too much into because DoorDash filed confidentially. So that means they could wait in the wings technically for however long as they want to receive that feedback. But it is interesting that at a time of such market volatility, a company is actually going out there and taking really the first step in an IPO. What it could also tell us is that DoorDash needs to raise money, whether or not markets are going to be volatile, whether or not it's the right time. It may have to embark on that. We don't know yet, but certainly want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and these markets, are going to be a little tricky, it seems, right now. For Airbnb, the coronavirus is kind of a double whammy because it not only makes it for rough market timing for an IPO, but also is a real economic problem for them to deal with, right? I mean, how's the company doing on that front, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge. I mean, their business is based on, obviously, a two-sided marketplace, and neither side of that or the company itself can really afford to absorb a hit all the time. I mean, when you look historically, their cancellation policies have been pretty strict, and the reason is that it's not a hotel, it's somebody, and they have one room. They're counting on that money to make rent. Similarly, a traveler can't afford to take a big hit. And historically, that trust has worked, but we've never dealt with this kind of issue. And again, the company itself looking to go public, trying to make those financials. Its last quarter wasn't as good. They really need to be able to show that they can be profitable. So it is a really tough. And I am looking at these companies that are facing double whammies. We talked about Apple last week, where they both sell a lot in China and manufacture. Airbnb is another one of those companies that's facing a double whammy.
Absolutely. So, Deirdre, what is Airbnb doing differently with coronavirus in terms of cancellation policies and so forth?
So they are actually suspending listings in a number of Chinese cities, and they are offering refunds. The company says that they are closely monitoring other marketplaces around the world and listening to officials and reacting that way. But just like everyone else, just like its potential public comparison companies like Expedia and Bookings.com, they have to see and they have to judge the impact, and that, importantly, as Ina said, impacts their plans to go public, not just in the quarter that we're in right now that they potentially would want to show to public market investors, but also their outlook. That is such a critical piece of the IPO process. A company going out to investors and saying, this is where we think we're going. And for a travel company with the global footprint that Airbnb has right now, that's increasingly difficult the longer that the coronavirus goes on and how uncertain it is.
So, what happens if they can't go public as soon as they might have hoped this year, if at all this year?
Well, when I look at a company like Airbnb, I think that there will be investors that say that's an opportunity in the private markets. I think they're a strong enough business that even if this is a really big hurdle for them, I think they'll be okay. I think the companies whose businesses are predicated on constant infusions of cash, those are the ones I worry about the most, because there's going to be a ripple effect. If the public markets start to become less open, then you're going to have a rush of companies seeking more private capital. And I think the ones that are going to count on these cash infusions, and we were already seeing that.
And that's also why Airbnb, that's also why you can view Airbnb very differently. We know that it's got some $3 billion in cash, whereas DoorDash, we know that that is a cash burning business. How long can it afford to wait? Airbnb could be fine waiting another year or two, but bigger questions for DoorDash.
No, that's a great point. I know that's why they were exploring the direct listing. I don't know if that's still the MO there. But, going back to what you said about this being tougher for companies who are predicated on that cash infusion, you don't have to name names, but can you give us a sense of who you might be talking about in terms of, where we watch for the ripple effects of this?
Sure. Well, I mean, Deirdre, you guys have been talking about one sector, which is this sector of delivery and stuff. They're burning cash. Ubers and Lyfts of the world, I mean, they're public. Some of their rivals are not. Other types of marketplaces. I think there are lots of businesses that have grown up saying, we can make the unit metrics work if we can get to scale. All those scooter companies aren't making money on each ride. I think a lot of those types of companies.
All right.